Welcome to Shatter.
Help me reach 5,000 subscribers. Support the video with a like and leave your thoughts in the comments. For 3 days, my wife punished me with silence. On the 4th, she realized I no longer cared, and that realization shook her more than anything I could have said. It began on a Monday evening at exactly 6:12 p.m. I know the time because I checked my watch as I pulled into our driveway, wondering if I was late. But when I stepped into the house, the silence that greeted me wasn't peaceful. It was deliberate, cold, suffocating. Emily sat at the kitchen table, her MacBook open in front of her. She typed with unnecessary force, each keystroke sharp enough to cut through the air. Normally, she would greet me, ask about my day, maybe offer me a glass of wine while dinner simmered on the stove. But that night, there was nothing. "Long day?" I asked, loosening my tie, trying to break through the strange quiet. No reply, not even a glance. I stood there for a moment, studying her face. 12 years of marriage had taught me that Emily never stayed silent when something bothered her. She debated, she argued, she analyzed every detail until we both collapsed from exhaustion. But this calculated indifference was new. I moved closer, gently touching her shoulder. No flinch, no acknowledgement, as if I were invisible in my own home. She ate her dinner alone that night, washed only her plate, and went upstairs without a word. I lay in bed beside her, wide awake, replaying every detail of the past week. No forgotten anniversary, no careless remark. Nothing. And yet she moved through her routine, shower, skincare, reading, without once looking at me. By Tuesday morning, her performance hadn't cracked. She dressed for work, poured coffee into her travel mug, and walked past me without so much as a nod. I followed her into the kitchen. "This has gone on long enough," I said. "Whatever's wrong, we need to talk." She slipped on her coat, grabbed her purse, and left. The sound of the door shutting was her only response. That evening, I noticed it. The way she watched me from the corner of her eye, the deliberate sighs, the exaggerated page-turning as I sat on the couch. This wasn't anger. This was theater. She wanted me anxious, desperate, begging for her attention. And for 36 hours, I had given her exactly that. But as I watched her stage another performance, the realization hit me like a clean strike of lightning. This wasn't about something I'd done wrong. This was a test. And in that moment, I made a decision. I would no longer play her game. Her silence wasn't punishment anymore. It was freedom. And that terrified her far more than my words ever could. By Tuesday night, the pattern was undeniable. Emily wasn't angry, at least not in any genuine sense. She was staging silence like a play, designed to pull me into a role I never auditioned for. Every sigh, every exaggerated gesture, every careful avoidance, it was all a script. She wasn't ignoring me because she couldn't speak. She was ignoring me to see how badly I wanted her to. And for years, I had been predictable. If she withdrew, I pursued. If she pouted, I comforted. If she escalated, I bent over backwards to prove my loyalty. But now, sitting on the couch with the TV glowing in front of me, I finally saw it clearly. This wasn't punishment. It was manipulation. I decided to flip the script. I ordered pizza, extra pepperoni, the greasy kind she hated. When it arrived, I sat at the table, opened the box, and ate slice after slice without offering her any. She came into the kitchen, hovering, waiting for me to extend an invitation. I didn't even look up. I ate, read my book, and let the silence work in my favor for once. Later, I picked a movie she always dismissed as mindless action garbage. Explosions, car chases, predictable dialogue. Normally, I would have watched it with one ear tuned to her sighs of disapproval. That night, I laughed out loud at the absurdity of it all, fully immersed, as if she wasn't even in the room. She lingered in the doorway, expecting me to pause, to acknowledge her, to beg her to sit with me. I didn't. When I went upstairs to bed, I fell asleep quickly. No anxious pacing, no racing thoughts about what I had done wrong. Just peace. And in that peace, I realized something important. Her silence wasn't depriving me of anything. It was giving me back everything I'd forgotten. My independence, my clarity, my ability to enjoy myself without someone else's approval. By Wednesday morning, I could feel her shift. She came downstairs earlier than usual, wearing the blouse I'd always complimented. She lingered in the kitchen, making breakfast she never bothered with on weekdays. Eggs, bacon, fruit, the works. It wasn't for her. It was for me. But I poured my coffee, grabbed my briefcase, and headed for the garage without a word. Through the rearview mirror, I saw her standing at the window, watching me drive away. Her lips were pressed tight, her eyes darting nervously. It wasn't anger anymore. It was panic. By Wednesday evening, her silence had cracked at the edges. When I walked through the door, the house looked staged, like a magazine spread. Candles on the dining table, fresh flowers in a vase, and dinner laid out as if we were celebrating something. Emily sat at the head of the table in the dress I'd bought her for our anniversary. She didn't say a word, but everything about the setup screamed expectation. In the past, this would have worked. I would have softened, praised her efforts, sat down, and pretended her theatrics erased whatever tension had come before. But now I simply glanced at the candles, nodded, and walked to the fridge for a beer. "I'm heading out," I said flatly, grabbing my jacket. "Drinks with Mike." Her face twitched, confusion first, then disbelief. This wasn't the response she'd rehearsed in her head. The table, the dress, the entire performance had fallen flat. As I closed the door behind me, I heard her gasp, almost a growl of frustration. At the bar, Mike raised an eyebrow. "You look lighter, man. Haven't seen you this relaxed in months." "I feel lighter," I admitted, taking a slow drink. And it was true. For years, I'd been weighed down by the constant pressure of decoding her moods, of keeping her satisfied. But now, without her constant demands for attention, I felt free in a way I hadn't in a long time. When I returned home later, the table was cleared, the candles blown out. Emily was in bed, but her body language told me everything. She wasn't asleep. She was waiting, still hoping I'd break, still expecting me to restore the balance she thought she controlled. I brushed my teeth, slid into bed, and turned off the light without saying a word. That night, she barely moved. Her silence no longer felt powerful, it felt desperate. Thursday morning brought a new tactic. She made coffee exactly the way I liked it, standing by the counter as if waiting for my approval. I poured a cup, nodded once, and walked to the porch with the newspaper. Through the kitchen window, I saw her grip her mug so tightly her knuckles turned white. It wasn't strategy anymore. It was fear. By Thursday evening, the performance had escalated into chaos. When I stepped inside, Emily was dragging furniture across the living room, rearranging shelves and shifting chairs like someone trying to rebuild control through sheer force. She was flushed, strands of hair falling out of place, her movements jerky with frustration. She wanted me to comment, to step in, to reestablish the old pattern where her chaos became my problem to solve. I didn't give her that. I walked through the room quietly, picked up my book from the side table, and sat down without acknowledging her struggle. When she tried to push a heavy bookshelf, clearly straining, I didn't move. My instinct screamed to help her, but I let it pass. For the first time in years, her performance wasn't my responsibility. Later, she switched tactics. She called her sister, her voice just loud enough for me to hear from the next room. "I don't know what's wrong with him," she said, exaggerating each word. "He's so distant. It's like he doesn't care anymore." She paused, her tone shifting into something darker. "I'm starting to think maybe he's seeing someone else." In the past, that would have hit me like a blade. I would have rushed in, desperate to defend myself, to reassure her, to erase the accusation. That night, I simply turned the page of my book. Her voice grew louder, sharper, but I didn't flinch. The accusation hung in the air, unanswered. When that failed, she tried what she probably considered her final weapon. She appeared in the doorway wearing lingerie I hadn't seen in months, her body positioned deliberately, her movements exaggerated as she applied lotion to her legs. Every gesture screamed, "Notice me. Break. Give me back the control." I set my alarm, turned off the lamp, and lay down. The silence between us was thick, but for once, it wasn't suffocating. It was clarity. As I drifted off, I realized something simple and devastating. Her silence had never been about me at all. It was about control. And now, stripped of the reaction she craved, she had nothing left but fear. For the first time in years, I wasn't the one lying awake in the dark, wondering what went wrong. She was. Friday morning, the house felt like it was holding its breath. Emily moved around with frantic energy, starting chores she had never cared about before, scrubbing already spotless counters, refolding clothes in drawers, rearranging shelves that didn't need rearranging. Every movement was a performance, a loud signal that screamed, "Look at me. Break the silence. Reset the balance." But I didn't move toward her. I brewed my coffee, scrolled the headlines on my phone, and sat on the porch in the cool morning air. Through the window, I caught her staring at me, her hand trembling slightly as she gripped her mug. The fear in her expression was no longer hidden. She wasn't in control anymore, and she knew it. At work, my colleagues noticed the difference. "You seem lighter," one of them said during a meeting. And they were right. Without the constant weight of her moods dictating mine, I was sharper, more focused. The freedom was intoxicating. That evening, she tried what I can only describe as her last dramatic play. She sat on the couch and began to cry. Not soft tears of someone overwhelmed by emotion, but the loud, deliberate sobs of someone used to tears being a weapon. She waited for me to come over, to ask what was wrong, to wrap her in my arms and reassure her that everything was fine. I didn't. I stayed in my chair, eyes on the television, listening to the rise and fall of her performance. When she realized I wasn't moving, the crying stopped almost instantly. She looked at me, mascara smudged, her voice sharp with disbelief. "Are you serious right now?" I turned my head slowly calm. "Are you talking to me now?" Hard to tell after 3 days of silence. Her lips parted, but no words came. Then finally, "I was making a point." I let the pause stretch before answering. "And what point was that? That I can't survive without your attention? That I need you more than you need me?" Her face faltered. The silence between us wasn't hers anymore. It was mine. "Here's the truth," I said quietly, leaning back into my chair. "You showed me exactly how much I need from you, which is nothing at all." Her entire performance crumbled in that moment. For the first time in years, she wasn't the one holding power in the silence. I was. Saturday morning, Emily shifted into something new, what I can only call her campaign of forced reconciliation. She woke earlier than me, and by the time I walked downstairs, the kitchen looked like a spread from a glossy magazine. Pancakes, fruit arranged in perfect circles, fresh flowers in a vase. Even the expensive coffee beans she usually saved for special occasions. She hummed softly, too loudly to be natural, moving around as if nothing had happened. "I thought we could spend the day together," she said finally, breaking her silence with a tone so cheerful it sounded rehearsed. "Maybe drive out to that antique market you mentioned once." But I had never wanted to go to that market. That had been her idea, repeated over and over until she almost believed I'd asked for it. I set my coffee down calmly. "I'm playing golf today." Her smile faltered for just a second, then quickly snapped back into place. "Well, maybe we could do something after. I could make that dinner you like, open a bottle of wine." Again, her words rewrote history. That meal had always been her favorite, not mine. In the past, I would have gone along, pretended, played the part she wanted. Now I just shook my head. I'll probably be tired. On the course with friends, I felt something I hadn't in years: freedom. No second-guessing my words, no monitoring someone else's mood, no quiet pressure pressing down on me. Just laughter, competition, and fresh air. One of my buddies slapped my shoulder and said, "Man, you're different today. More relaxed." "Because I am," I answered simply. When I returned home that evening, Emily had staged yet another scene. The table was set with candles, her hair done perfectly, wearing a dress I'd always complimented. "How was golf?" she asked, her voice carefully casual. "Good," I said, hanging up my jacket. "Dinner's ready whenever you are. I made that salmon dish you love." It wasn't my dish. It never had been. I looked at the candles, the effort, the hours she had spent building this display of forced normalcy. Then I gave her 5 words she wasn't ready for. "I'm not really that hungry." The crack in her face was immediate. Confusion, then hurt, then fear. And for the first time, she understood. This wasn't her game anymore. It was mine. Sunday morning, Emily's desperation turned frantic. She moved through the house like a storm, cleaning rooms that were already spotless, scrubbing floors on her hands and knees, opening and shutting closets as if the act of organizing could erase the last week. Every sound she made was louder than necessary, as if to force me to notice. I poured my coffee, stepped carefully around her, and headed for the garage. She didn't follow, but I could feel her eyes on my back, begging for engagement. In the quiet of my workshop, I organized tools I'd neglected for months. There was something grounding about it, the weight of a hammer, the clean alignment of screwdrivers in their rack. It was work with results I could see, unlike the endless emotional acrobatics of our marriage. Around noon, she appeared in the doorway, arms crossed. "I was thinking we could go to lunch," she said. "That new place downtown you mentioned wanting to try." But I hadn't. That had always been her idea. I kept my eyes on the toolbox in front of me. "I'm busy." "You've been busy all weekend," she snapped. "I've been productive," I corrected. "There's a difference." Her face twisted, caught between anger and fear. She didn't know how to reach me anymore. Later that evening, she tried again. This time not with silence, not with accusations, not with performances. She came into the living room, sat down across from me, and spoke plainly. "We need to talk. This whole whatever this is, it needs to stop." I looked at her carefully, weighing the words. For the first time, there was no act, no staging, no calculated gestures. Just raw uncertainty. "Everything is normal," I said quietly. "This is what normal looks like when I stop managing your emotions for you." Her lips trembled. I don't know what that means. But she did, and the fear in her eyes told me she hated it. That night, for the first time in a long time, I wasn't the one lying awake in the dark. She was, because she finally realized. I wasn't coming back to the old version of me. By Monday morning, the air in the house had shifted. Emily was no longer playing the part of the silent punisher, nor the desperate actress putting on grand performances. She was careful now, cautious in her words, as if testing the boundaries of this new reality she couldn't control. When I walked into the kitchen, she was already there, pouring coffee into my mug exactly the way I liked it. She forced a smile. "How did you sleep?" she asked softly. "Fine," I answered, nothing more. "Any plans after work?" She tried again, her tone light. "The usual." Her face flickered with disappointment, but she didn't push. She was learning, finally, that I wasn't going to feed her the responses she wanted. At work that day, I realized how much energy I had wasted over the years. For so long, my mind had been occupied with reading her moods, anticipating her reactions, adjusting myself to keep her satisfied. Now, with that burden gone, I was sharper, more present. Colleagues noticed. One even said, "You're different lately. More focused." "I feel more focused," I admitted. And it was true. That evening, Emily tried something new. No silent treatment, no dramatic gestures. Just words. "I'd like us to have dinner together," she said quietly when I walked in. "Just the two of us. No games. Just dinner." I looked at her for a moment, then nodded. "Okay." She seemed surprised by how easily I agreed. During dinner, she asked about my day, really listened, and shared pieces of her own without the hidden edge of expectation. For the first time in months, the conversation felt genuine, free of manipulation. As we cleared the dishes together, she looked at me with something close to relief. "This is better," she said. "It is," I admitted. But inside, I knew this wasn't over. One calm dinner didn't erase years of games. One genuine conversation didn't change a pattern built over a decade. The real test wouldn't be how she acted tonight, when she was trying to win me back. The test would come the next time she was upset. Would she speak directly? Or would she reach again for the silence, the performance, the manipulation? I didn't know yet. But I did know one thing with absolute clarity. No matter what she chose, I wasn't going back. Not ever. By Tuesday, Emily's mask had begun to crack. She tried to keep her tone even, her words calm, but I could see the storm behind her eyes. She was beginning to understand what my silence really meant, that I wasn't fighting her anymore. I wasn't begging, chasing, or explaining. I was gone in the only way that mattered, emotionally. That evening, she finally confronted me. She sat across from me in the living room, her hands clasped tightly, her voice trembling just enough to betray the fear she was trying to hide. "You're different," she whispered. "I am," I said evenly. "You're distant. It's like you're not even here." "I'm here," I told her. "I'm just not chasing anymore." Her face fell, and for a moment, I saw something raw, panic mixed with regret. "That's not what I wanted. I just wanted you to notice me." "I always noticed you," I replied. "But I'm not going to panic every time you decide to test me. I'm not going to lose sleep trying to decode your moods." She sat there in silence, and I could see her mind racing, searching for the old tools she used to rely on. But those tools no longer worked. Later that night, she tried once more, but not with words. She sat on the edge of the bed in a nightgown she hadn't worn in years, her voice soft, almost pleading. "I miss you. I'm right here," I said calmly, not looking up from my book. "No," she said, her voice breaking. "Not really." I closed the book, looked her in the eye, and spoke with a coldness that left no room for argument. "I'm not distant, Emily. I'm free. There's a difference." Her eyes filled with tears, but I didn't move toward her. For years, I had allowed her emotions to dictate mine, had rushed in to fix, to reassure, to prove my worth. Now, I sat still, untouched, and the silence belonged to me. She finally lay down beside me, facing away, her body rigid with the weight of her own loss. And for the first time in our marriage, I realized she wasn't the one in control. I was. By Wednesday morning, something had shifted permanently. Emily no longer moved through the house with the sharp energy of someone trying to prove a point. She was slower now, quieter, not in the way she had been before, not with weaponized silence, but with the stillness of someone who finally understood they had lost something they couldn't control. Over breakfast, she looked at me across the table. No performance this time, no false cheerfulness, no games. Just her, stripped of every tactic she had relied on for years. "I don't know how to fix this," she said softly. "Maybe it doesn't need to be fixed," I answered, my voice calm. "Maybe it needs to be different." Her eyes filled with tears, but she didn't look away. For the first time, I saw sincerity, not strategy. And for the first time, I realized I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't even hurt. I was beyond all of that. I was steady, clear, untouchable. She reached across the table, her hand trembling slightly. "I don't want to lose you." "You already did," I said, pausing just long enough to let the words sink in. Then I added, "At least the version of me you thought you could control." She broke then, not with drama, not with performance, but with the raw, unguarded sobs of someone who finally understood what they had destroyed. The silence she had once wielded like a knife had turned against her, cutting away the illusion of power she'd lived in for years. I didn't rush to comfort her. I didn't bend. I let her feel the weight of it, because it wasn't my job to carry her through this anymore. When her sobs quieted, I spoke one last time. "We can start again, but not on your terms. Not with silence. Not with games. If this goes forward, it's on respect. On truth. On both of us standing as equals. Nothing less." She nodded, broken but listening. For the first time, maybe ever, she truly listened. And as I stood to leave the table, I felt it with absolute clarity. I hadn't won against her. I had won against the version of myself that used to chase. And that victory was mine forever. What would you have done in my place? If the story hit you, leave a like. And don't forget to subscribe. It only gets stronger from here.